welcome to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, Executive Director of the Community Career Center, a resource center located in Naperville for people in career transition. If you're unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, this show is for you. Career Center will bring human resource professionals and other experts together to provide job search tips to assist you as you search for your next success. Later on Career Center, we will talk with LinkedIn expert Larry New, but first, it is my pleasure to introduce Dave Ron. Dave, welcome.
Hi, Kim. Great to see you.
So, Dave, you have an extensive background in information technology. Yep. Can you share a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'm right now actually seeking a leadership role in information technology. I want to look for a position where I can maybe run somebody's IT department. And my background in information technology spans probably 20 plus years. I've been involved either directly, hands-on kind of things in almost every aspect of information technology, from networks to servers to desktop support, project management, business analysis, pretty much you name it, either directly or indirectly by managing other people that do that kind of thing. So again, what I'm looking for is my next role is to, again, find that opportunity to find some place where I can lead a particular IT department, maybe somebody's struggling and managing and matching up the IT department to the business goals and objectives. So that's what I find I'm particularly good at.
Good. So with information technology, you have to stay current. Mm-hmm. And you said you've had an extensive background. So what have you done to stay current?
Well, staying current, a couple of things. I've been actually doing some online study of SharePoint and Salesforce. I think those are two up-and-coming, particularly pieces of software that are growing, and there seems to be a growing demand and need for people that have those skills. I've been doing that as well. In addition, I consistently meet with other people similar in skill and background to me, people who are CIOs and vice presidents of IT for different organizations. And we try to, share information, what we know, struggles that they're having, try to talk about it together and, continue that networking among my peers.
Right. And I know another thing you do is LinkedIn, but we'll talk about that in the second segment. So what I wanted to talk about today is you are also a volunteer at the Community Career Center, and you put together a workshop on creating an interview portfolio, which is something that has been done in the past, but it's kind of taken on a whole new thing now. In the past, normally you saw graphic artists, folks of that nature who would put together one, but you've come up with a great workshop, and I want you to share, first of all, what is an interview portfolio?
Well, it's a portfolio of information you can leave behind with the interviewers when you're talking with them. Typically, what you find is most people take an extra 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of their resume with them, and that's pretty typical. And what we're finding today, I think, as finding those right opportunities and really being in a highly competitive job market for the job seeker, you really need to stand out in some way.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's a way by having something more than just an extra copy of your resume along, that if you bring that and leave it and put it in the interviewer's hands, it helps you be remembered by anyone that you would talk to at those face-to-face interviews.
So what are some things that would be part of this portfolio?
Well, I've got a certain package of stuff that I include in mine, and it certainly depends on what your role is, what you're looking for. But some of the things I include, in addition to my resume, I always have a business card, one of my individual business cards that I use, as well as a skill requirements matrix to kind of help match up in the eyes of the interviewer what they're asking for and how I meet those skills. I include basically a list of example projects that I've worked on in the past to give them an idea of the kind, size, scope, and geographic impact that projects that I've worked on in the past. To actually take off of LinkedIn, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I actually copy and put on my LinkedIn recommendations into a piece of paper, so nobody has to go to LinkedIn to find those. Copy my references. Sometimes I'll include a personal introduction, just a little bit about me, kind of generically, that separates it from the resume itself.
Do you put in a resume?
Yeah, I'll include a resume as well. So include that as well. Maybe some samples of my work. Again, depending on the kind of role that I'm looking for and that people are looking for, put in different samples. I have 2 different samples I use. One's associated with the end user documentation, and the other one's associated with business process reengineering. And I have a couple of samples like that I include too. And specifically, I use those either one, the other, or both, depending on what they're asking for in the role.
Mm-hmm. Do you just provide one, or do you make sure you have enough for the number of
I make sure that I have at least one extra for everybody that I know I'm going to be talking with. So in case they happen to corral somebody else that wasn't on my list of people that I had to talk to, I at least have an extra one. Sometimes I'll take 2 if it's a large number of people I'm going to talk to. Again, they may corral in a couple other folks. I have 1 or 2 extras that I take along. And I do leave that with every single person that I talk to, whether it's in a panel type interview. I had one last week where I was in a panel of 6. I had 6 copies that I gave one to everybody.
So you know in advance, you ask in advance how many people?
Yeah.
So you mentioned all the things that should be included. Is there anything that you should exclude?
One of the things that I think I tend to want to maybe not include in that, but have handy, is a 30, 60, 90 plan, which is something that we talk about in the different workshops over at the Career Center of, what are you going to do in the first 90 days here? And that's a common question. Typically, it comes later in the interview process by typically a higher up in the organization might ask you, what are you going to, I see what your potential is, but what are you going to do for me in the first 90 days? And typically I have that separately. I don't include that because it may not be germane to the people that I'm talking to at the time. But certainly if I have it in my portfolio, in my briefcase, so if somebody mentions it, I say, oh, by the way, here you go, and then we can add this into the portfolio.
Is it important with that 30, 60, 90 days, since you brought that up, sometimes it's important to provide that even after the fact. After your interview, they've talked to you about what that role is going to be like. Now you go home, create that.
You can do that as well. And typically, what I do is I don't typically expect that in the first interview, first set of interviews. Sometimes they'll ask about it, and you can always have a more generic one available. But as you get more visibility into the organization, what their issues are, what they're looking to resolve quickly, and maybe longer-term issues, you can then lay that out and change that more generic plan into a more specific plan that you can include and say, I know you mentioned these 3 things. Here's how I'm going to address these 3 very hot buttons that you talked about last time I was here.
All right, so back to the career portfolio. How important is it to have one nowadays, you think?
Well, again, I think it's really important. It's a way to stand out with the people you're talking with. It's something that you can really... not many people do it. So I think it becomes something that, one of the reactions I got from a couple of people when I had my interview last week was, wow, this is very impressive. And it's a way to get your word out there. One of the things that I find with dealing with human resources and submitting your application through normal process is you may submit some of these items like a cover letter or your resume certainly, and some of the other items that may be submitted on extra documents that they allow you to submit. But you don't know what the human resource people have done with all those when they get it. They may just print out your resume, and that's maybe the only thing that the other people you're going to talk to ever see. So it's an opportunity to get the other things that you have sent in previously and some additional documents into the hands of the people that are really evaluating you.
So just to kind of go through, I kind of took some notes here on the to have in there career summary and goals is what you have. Mission statement, philosophy, what do you?
Typically that would be in this, what I call this personal introduction kind of thing. I kind of put that together and say, here's my general philosophy on management, on projects, on IT projects, and some, maybe some highlights of things in particular that organization will be looking for by actually looking at the job description and figuring out what are they really looking for here. Are they looking for somebody with real heavy analytical skills? Are they looking for somebody that really knows how to manage people, a good communicator, whatever those things are, an innovator maybe? I'll pull those things out of my my background and create little paragraphs, telling stories about specific times that I did those things to kind of give people an example of, here's who I am, here's some of the things that I've done, include that on that personal introduction. Again, if you don't get time to do that and talk with people ahead of time, they can take the portfolio back at their desk and say, oh wow, he's done these things as well.
Right. Okay, and then your skills, of course, abilities, list of accomplishments.
Yep. Again, again, it depends if you're a person that hasn't done a lot of project kind of work. You know, a list of accomplishments you can put on. You know, you accomplished. This is what you did. This is who it impacted within the organization. This is the approximate cost or cost savings. You can write that in kind of a table, leave it on a single page, and again, it gives somebody that you're talking with an idea of what you've done and what you might be able to do for them.
Okay. Samples of work you mentioned, research, publications, reports. If you've
done some of those kinds of things, certainly. If you have some research papers, white papers that you've done, include those in there. You know, somebody's got a lot of patents. Well, maybe you want to have a list of here's your patents.
Have that in there.
Recent ones, whatever it is, publications. Certainly a list of those. Maybe a sample publication if you have one.
Okay.
You know, and again, it depends on who you are, what you're looking for, what your background is.
Yeah. So testimonials, letters of recommendations. You mentioned that. Awards and honors. Of course, you put that in there. Yeah. What about if you've attended conferences and workshops, seminars?
If there's something specific, if you presented at one of those, that would be a great thing to do.
Put that in.
Put that in there. But I don't, you know, just attending. That's kind of in your background. It's either on your resume or on your LinkedIn profile, and you can certainly talk to that. But it's more the specific accomplishments that you're trying to bring to the forefront and how the value that you're bringing to the organization. And trying to show that with the documentation that you're bringing.
What about professional associations? If you're a part of a group,
same thing. If you presented to those kind of things, I would certainly bring that up, and maybe bring that up in a separate topic. But you know, again, that's something you can certainly talk to. Is I'm a member of this, and this. And that comes into play of what have you been doing to keep current.
Right. Volunteering, community service. You're very good at that. Put that in there.
Same kind of thing. Put that in there if you want, especially if it's a organization that you're looking at that respects volunteerism. And you have to get to know the organization before you bring that up. So you may want to include that, but it's certainly something you could talk about.
And then you mentioned your references, and do you always include those, or sometimes?
I always do. I always do, with the caveat that I've included my references here, but please just let me know before you start contacting references so I can let them know to expect your call.
Great. Well, Dave, thank you so much. As we wrap up, I want to just thank you for sharing your career portfolio advice with us. Lots of great advice for our job seekers. Up next, joining Dave and I will be Larry New, and we're going to talk LinkedIn. We'll be right back after these public service announcements.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Good things happen at the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. Experience more than 25,000 acres where native plants and animals make their home. Discover the scenic beauty of over 60 forest preserves containing forests, prairies, and wetlands. Explore the wonder of changing seasons along 145 miles of trails. Get outside and discover the good things that happen when you visit DuPage Forest Preserves. The Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, where good things happen.
Welcome back to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, along with Dave Ron. We now have joining us Larry New. Larry's going to, along with Dave, are going to share with us some LinkedIn tips. Larry, Dave just shared a little bit about who he is and his background. Can you please do that for our audience?
Sure. I'm a senior network engineer. I design, build.
What does that mean?
I design, build, and support the infrastructure that sits between your computer and the internet, your computer and a company server. You might call me a network plumber.
A network plumber. Oh, I like that. Never heard that. Well, very good. So let's talk about LinkedIn. You know, it's out there. Everybody, I think everybody knows about LinkedIn. Would you agree, disagree?
Well, we're still finding, with the classes that we do, we're still finding people that don't know a whole lot about it, or they're on it and they've been on it for years, just don't know what to do with it. And one of the things that Larry and I started doing 7 years ago this fall, as we started giving LinkedIn workshops at no charge to the unemployed kind of group. Kind of our payback for all the help that we got on resumes and interviewing practice and things like that. And we felt that's something we could do. And we do find people that are still not sure what it's all about.
7 years. LinkedIn's been around that long? How long has it been around?
It's been around longer than that. I was on it.
2003 or 2005.
2005, I think, is when it started.
Yeah. Wow, it doesn't seem like it's been around that long.
So it's been around 10 years.
Okay, all right. So when we talk about LinkedIn, the first thing we tell our clients is set up your LinkedIn profile before you come into the center and meet with someone or attend a workshop. What is the LinkedIn profile? And
I'll take that one. For all intents and purposes, the LinkedIn profile is your exposure to the world. It's essentially an electronic resume. Wall Street Journal, I think it was last year, indicated that LinkedIn and sites like LinkedIn are going to replace the paper resume in the very near future. So you need to really understand what goes into a resume in order to be able to build a profile appropriately.
Yeah.
any more?
Yeah, and you know, and there's, you can put in whatever you want and go back as far as you want, and it's kind of up to you, whatever you're personally feeling like. You know, I mean, Larry is a pretty good. My resume is my resume. Here's what I've done, and my LinkedIn profile is represented pretty much exactly that way. I include a little bit more in there because you know, the two-page resume that I typically send out on a piece of paper, there's just not enough room to add everything. So I have a little bit more on my profile.
What are some other things that you add?
Well, I add more bullet points, for example.
So you just beef it up a little bit.
I beef it up a little bit more, and in the summary on that, typically a good way to get started on a profile is take your career summary, which is you know, well developed, well thought out of, we hope, off your resume, copy and paste that in. That's a great start. But then you can add more to it because you do have a significant number. I think you got about 2,000 characters. You can add a lot of information there. And I think that's where you include all your keywords and phrases, so people, when they're searching you, they don't search you by name. They're looking for somebody with certain skills and certain attributes that hopefully are in that summary. So that's where you want to include those.
Okay. So you've got your profile set up. When do you start to reach out to contacts? Clearly, you wouldn't do that until after your profile's been completely set up, or?
Well, my opinion is you want to do that right away because it really are two separate things. You can start to create those contacts and get folks to join you, especially people you've worked with in the past. One of the things that Larry and I both subscribe to is be strategic in who you connect with. Don't be a collector. Quality is much more important than quantity.
Absolutely.
So, and our guideline that we use and is people that you know. And of those people that you trust, people that you wouldn't mind helping if they ask you, and people that you wouldn't be afraid of asking for help from. And so that's what we kind of structure our connections around.
Which, by the way, is effectively what the founder of LinkedIn said in an NPR radio interview about 2.5 years ago.
Okay, very good. So LinkedIn settings, let's talk about those. I know there's alerts and changes, and do you want people to get that when you're making a change? What's your thoughts on these settings on LinkedIn?
For the most part, their settings out the gate are usually pretty good.
Okay.
If you need additional help with them, then you probably need to understand more about how their settings work. It's difficult to explain in this venue, but Dave and I do provide the What's That Noise class, and if people have specific questions, we can either address it in the class or address it after the class to assist them in understanding what it is that they want to change their settings to. The primary setting that I think most people would use is turning off notification when they're making changes to their profile, so that way their associates that they're connected to. So you just turn
it off right when you're doing it, and then you can just flip it back on.
You can turn it off when you go in to start adjusting it, and when you're done, turn it back on, and then a notification goes to all of your first level connections indicating that you've made changes to your profile.
And one of the things we found recently is that switch isn't an on-off. It's not like a light switch. It's sort of like you flip it, and you should wait about 24 hours for it to take effect.
Okay.
And the same thing, turning it
That's
off,
good to
turning it
know.
on. There's some delay in there before it's
We're not
effective.
sure why.
And, yeah.
Come on, you network guys, you should, yeah.
Well, it's probably because the number of, it used to be immediate, but it's probably because the number of people with
that are doing
LinkedIn
it.
profiles has just exploded in the last 5 years that just can't handle it as quickly as they want to.
Right. Groups. So there are tons of LinkedIn groups within LinkedIn that you can join. What are your thoughts on that?
Groups are great. Groups give you the opportunity to be associated with individuals or interests that you have, and it allows you the opportunity within LinkedIn to create groups. So for example, if you worked for an organization and you don't find an alumni group from that organization, you can create an alumni group from that organization, and then others from that organization will
now
find
join.
you and join that.
Smart.
That gives you an opportunity then to network more with individuals who may have been previously associated to where you were, or for them to find you. In fact, I found a number of people that ran groups. I didn't know that they were running these groups. I lost track of them 5 years before, but when I found the group and went to join the group, I found that these people were people that I had good, strong working relationships with, which is really critical because those are the people who can say how you do your job and how you're committed to your work. And that's really important when you are trying to get yourself established within the product.
Do you need to be strategic when you're joining groups? For instance, you want to join a group that has something to do with what you do, your background, instead of...
You can be in 50 different groups. And I'm in about 45 groups that are technical groups, and about 5 groups that are groups that I'm joining for other reasons.
Okay.
There's groups out there for fly fishing, there's groups out there for all kinds of things. But the important thing is, if you're in a group, be active in the group. Because if you're active in the group, your name is out there, people see your name, you're making comments about discussions, you're participating in discussions, and that in turn brings you up in other people's estimation when they're looking at what's going on. They may look at your profile because you're active in the group.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really important, I think, touching on the be active in the group, because if a recruiter or somebody out there is looking, the way to get your name out there is to start saying, hey, this is my area of expertise, and here, by what I'm writing and sharing, I'm showing that. I'm demonstrating that I have the knowledge that you may be looking for.
Very good. Okay. So connections. I hear different things from our clients at the center. You know, how many connections? Is it important to have 500? Do I stick with 200? What are your thoughts on connections, both of you?
Sure. Well,
Both of you.
again, it gets back to the quality stuff. If you have 10 quality connections, that's all you feel you have. Okay, is LinkedIn going to be as effective as if you have 250 quality connections? Probably not. I don't believe that there's a number that you have to reach. You know, there's.
Because I've heard
people
say
500. You got to have 500. Well, you know, that's the recruiter saying because they want to connect with you and then they want to mine your connections. But there is no inherent thing that comes up that says, oh, there's no magical thing that says this person has 500 connections and they're going to give a different status. There's nothing that I'm aware of in the product that does anything with that.
So if you have 10 connections, it's okay, and if you have 200.
If they're solid connections, if they're people that you trust, people that you know, people you wouldn't mind asking for help, and people you wouldn't mind helping, then those are your connections. It's more or less just like life. I mean, you don't go out and introduce yourself and take people to lunch that you don't know as a general rule. You hang with the people that you know.
And in the job search process, what you find is that you meet other people and you get to know them. So if you get to know them over time, and then, in our opinion, then you can connect to them. And that's where Larry and I met 7 years ago. We were both out looking for a job like we are now. And we've become good friends, and you know, we hang out a lot.
He's put on a great workshop,
and it's just you know, we share stuff with each other and bounce things off each other, and so we've gotten to know each other. Even though we never worked together specifically in a job, we've worked together.
We sort of.
Well, we sort of do now.
No, we did at TCS.
Oh yeah, but that was after that.
So let's talk about the first level, second level, the tiers, if you will.
Yeah, LinkedIn is developed based on the 6 degrees of separation model from a theory, I think, developed in the 1960s, that you're 6 steps away from having a contact to everybody on the face of the earth. I think the number is 43. So if you have 43 unique people and the next person you're connected to has 43 unique people and each one of those has 43 unique people, by the time you walk down 6 levels, that's essentially the population of the planet Earth. And what LinkedIn does, it tracks that down to 3 levels. So that the people that I know are considered level 1 to me, Larry's level 1 to me, and the people that maybe Larry knows, people he's worked with in the past that I don't know, would be level 2 to me. And then the people that they know that Larry doesn't know would be level 3. Today, yeah, you never know. But you can get with a relatively small number, I think when LinkedIn was reporting this, and it doesn't anymore, you had like 260 connections or something like that.
Correct.
And that got him to over 3 million people.
Wow. On a third level.
On a third level.
First, second, third level.
And so it is very exponential, and you can certainly then use your network, and that's what this tool is about. This tool is about enhancing your network efforts. You can really then start to use that network much more effectively in a job search.
LinkedIn picture.
LinkedIn picture. Dave has a picture of Dave on LinkedIn. I do not. It's a choice.
Okay.
If
So you don't have a picture at all?
I don't have a picture.
Okay.
I don't have a picture. There are people that say you have to have a picture, and if you don't have a picture, then no one will look at you. But I get prompted all the time by recruiters who supposedly wouldn't look at me to find out if I'm interested in roles that they have. It is convenient when you're first starting out to try and get people you know, because they'll recognize your photo.
Yeah.
If you worked with them 5 years ago, chances are you didn't change very much. Maybe you have a little more salt and pepper in your hair, but you didn't change significantly. It's still the same person, and they go, wait, that's Jim. I remember Jim. And it's easier to maybe connect with people.
Yeah, one of the things, though, if you do have a picture, is you want to make sure that it is a kind of professionally styled picture. It doesn't have to be a professionally taken picture.
Yeah.
You know, all our cell phones and everything, we've got tremendous capability in that. So get dressed up in a professional kind of attire, stand against a blank wall, have a friend take half a dozen or dozen shots of you, pick out one that looks good, and put that one up there.
Right.
You don't want pictures of you holding your dog or any
In a
other
Hawaiian shirt, leaning against the boat.
unless that applies to what your career is. And we know some guy out there who was in men's clothing, and he had a picture of a men's mannequin out there. So it kind of that kind of made sense.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much. As we wrap up, if you want to learn more about creating, updating, or perfecting your LinkedIn profile, visit us on the web or call the center so that we can get you signed up to attend a LinkedIn workshop. Or go to whatsthatnoise.net.
We try to do one of our workshops at least once a month, kind of around the city of Chicago in different places.
Great. All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks for asking us.
And as always, if you're unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, visit us at the center on Wednesdays or Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock to learn more about our resources. Thanks for watching.